Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga has expressed confidence that he will conquer Mount Kenya region through the Building Bridges initiative. The region has become a rich hunting ground for politicians with presidential ambitions. Now, Raila Odinga dismissed what he called the wheelbarrownomics, saying that BBI proposals hold the key to Kenya's political and economic transformation. But even as he spoke about conquering Mount Kenya, the International Commission of Jurists, ICJ Kenya chapter, opposed the BBI, saying it was a clawback on the gains made under the 2010 Constitution. Our senior political affairs reporter, Patrick Amimo, with that report.
Ruaka in Kiambu County. ODM leader Raila Odinga literally facing Mount Kenya as members of the Kikuyu Council of Elders made chants to their deity. Raila was accompanied by scores of ODM MPs from Nyanza to meet with Kikuyu elders and traders from Githurai market. Raila is battling for the soul of the vote-rich region that has produced 3 presidents since independence. With President Uhuru Kenyatta expected to exit office after the August 2022 polls, the region has become a rich hunting ground for politicians nursing presidential ambitions. Raila vowed to conquer the mountain against his rivals.
Hii milima nitapanda. Mimi nitapanda. Matiba alinifundisha. Wengine wanasema Raila hawezi kupanda milima. Nitawaambia ng'oo.
Deputy President William Ruto has made frequent forays in the region in a bid to succeed Uhuru. Ruto's hustler narrative and wheelbarrownomics appears to be a thorn in the flesh of BBI supporters led by Raila and Uhuru.
Upward social mobility is what we want for our people in this country. And it's possible by giving them opportunity, giving them proper training. They will rise. Kenyans are very enterprising people.
The traders and elders held a closed-door meeting with Raila's team to plan on how to overturn the anti-BBI narrative in Mount Kenya region ahead of the town hall meetings and or rallies.
Najua mahali kuna watu. Githurai is the mlango kuu ya kuingia Nairobi na kuingia Mount Kenya pia. So lazima tufike Githurai
ili watu wetu waweze kutoka katika hali hii. Tufuate ile nchi zingine tulikuwa nao sawa, kama nchi ya Korea Kusini. Hatuwezi kufika huko ikiwa kama sisi tutaambia watu wetu ati mkokoteni peke yake, ati wheelbarrow peke yake. Wengine wanapiga kelele ati wheelbarrow. Hiyo ni kama mtu ambaye amepumbazwa. Haelewi ati kwamba anadanganywa.
But even as Raila preached the BBI gospel in Kiambu, in Nairobi, the Kenya section of the International Commission of Jurists, ICJ Kenya, wants the 2010 Constitution to be fully implemented, saying it provides solution to what ails Kenya.
We reject the BBI proposals on constitution amendments in totality and reiterate that the amendments are unnecessary. The issues identified can be cured by entrenching political will, instituting policy and legal reform. What the Constitution 2010 requires is meaningful, deliberate implementation in all its core areas.
Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
All right, that's the latest in terms of local politics. Let me just introduce Senator Stewart Madzayo, who's the Kilifi County Senator. Many thanks for making time and joining our panel. I'd like to begin with you. We've seen what Raila Odinga has mentioned, hii mlima nitapanda, and it goes to show the importance or the synonymity that comes with the Central Kenya vote block. Now, let's start with what ICJ has just mentioned. Proper implementation of the 2010 Constitution is actually important and might actually not give precedence to the fact that we need BBI right now. What do you have to say about this?
I think it's important to note that BBI basically was introduced in this country by the President and His Excellency, the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. I think it's important to realize that BBI is bringing all Kenyans together. We want to find a bridge on how we can have peace after we go for the general elections. We noted that previously, when we went to the general elections, there have been fights after election results have been announced. And I think it would only be fair if at all one person cannot run with everything after the elections. And therefore, I think, in my view, BBI was the right thing at the right moment. Whereas I also agree with maybe the ICJ, I may disagree on one thing, that 2010 constitutions, all the constitutions all over the world, as we know, people amend certain clauses in the constitution, and people come up with fresh ideas. And I think not all constitutions in the world are perfect. And therefore, I think, as Raila has put it, it's open for everyone to see. BBI is there. We open ourselves to read it as Kenyans. And once we read it, BBI will be placed before the Kenyans. And I do hope that we shall acquire the necessary number of signatures for it to go for referendum. And it's in that regard that I think I personally would support the BBI process.
All right, now that's interesting. Gladys Bosch-Shule, I'm sure you have something to input on this. I mean, there's an anti-BBI narrative in Central, and the senator has been categorical in mentioning that it's meant to bring Kenyans together. That was the ideology behind this, you know, the unity message. But it doesn't seem Central is boarding, at least according to the talk that is on the ground.
I think first of all, as Kenya, we have to stop talking about BBI, because the BBI process and the document has already been written. What has happened at the moment is we now have a constitutional amendment bill that is before us. So what we should be discussing is the contents of that constitutional amendment bill. Those of us who have read it have pointed out what we find unacceptable in that particular constitutional amendment bill. So BBI wasn't meant to bring Kenyans together. BBI was intended to create 5 positions for top seats for the big political bigwigs and tribal chiefs. It was intended to increase the number of members of parliament. How that brings Kenyans together is something I cannot fathom, and I think it's only being used to lie to Kenyans. That is not the case at all. As many people have said, our constitution is comprehensive enough. If it's about inclusivity, devolution has resolved inclusivity. We never have to worry who's the president of Kenya, because every region will be developed and will have revenue that's allocated to it in a formula that is fair and equal to everyone. We have the equalization fund. So for inclusivity, we do not need BBI. And I think that's a beaten track, and the conversation we should be having to Kenyans is letting Kenyans know what is the contents of the amendment bill, and let Kenyans vote on it. And I can assure you that Kenyans will reject the constitutional amendment bill, without doubt.
Okay. Now, Professor, kindly allow us to bring you on board. Well, what do you make of the rhetoric that is being thrown around BBI and the contents as well, the issue of inclusivity, which Shule has just mentioned?
I think what is saddening is that we just throw out slogans. We really don't have substance. I mean, I listened to Mheshimiwa. He told us the BBI will bring us together, but he's not telling us how. The BBI itself is not really telling us how. So I think we need to be careful, even with the language. When we brought the new constitution, what did we say? It's about to bring us together. And it's true, it does, because Article 10, we haven't implemented it properly. Article 43 on social and economic rights, we haven't implemented, because there's a clause there, a beautiful clause that says no citizen will be denied emergency medical treatment. So if you are not implementing that one, what are we doing? Now, Article 86 on the electoral process, because this is what I expected myself. When the president and the former prime minister shook hands, Raila's complaint, his problem, was what he called electoral justice. So you would expect that they will go directly to Article 86, which says how our election should be run, and then the BBI now would come together with an election offences bill, which makes it a capital offense for anybody to tamper with our elections. Because you see, as soon as our elections are clear, as soon as our elections, we know that they were free and fair, when you lose and you try to take people in the street, we will wrong you. We are not going to follow you. We are not going to give you a handshake. We will just tell you, go home. This election was clear. So for me, I think the way to bring this country together is to make sure our electoral process it cannot be manipulated by anybody. And the Kenyans know that, and they have a trust in the process, trust with the people who conduct the elections. So all the other things we're hearing, in my opinion, I think they are stories, but the truth of the matter, of course, is the Mbimbi Kundisle pass. I mean, Raila is right. He says you will climb the mountain. There's nothing that will stop him from climbing the mountain. The problem is, what I see is very handy to understand, actually, where the unity in the BBI lies. Because creating those 5 positions, which will be occupied by the big five meaning that the Gikuyu, Kalenjin, Luya, Luo, and the Kamba, I don't see how that spells unity, in my opinion. I have a problem with that. Because also we need to be careful not to write tribalism into law. This is the time I think we need to educate our people that what we want is your service as a Kenyan, your skills. We don't want to know which tribe you come from because we know that we don't eat the tribe. You know, Kibaki, for example, let me just give an example. If Kibaki were to be younger and they come back giving the experiences we have now,
all right,
I think we will elect him across the country regardless of whether he was the president or whether he's a Kikuyu. So I think we need to be very sober. Now, the other thing which I'm lacking is also, even the people who are opposing, the opposers of the BBI, they need to be particular on what they're opposing, because they need to go back to what was the reason for the anti-sick. What was the reason for that? Because we can't be changing the law every time that we are not president or we didn't become prime minister or we didn't get dissatisfied. Because having that lineup of those 5, even without, you see what even they could have said was that if the president come from a specific tribe, then the prime minister must come from a different tribe, not just the party.
All right.
It could have gone to those in details. But right now, what stops us from having a Kikuyu president, Kikuyu prime minister, to Kikuyu deputy prime minister? What will stop us from doing that?
All right. So, Senator Madzayo, I'll give you some time to reply briefly. It seems there is contention under the message of unity in the BBI.
As far as I'm concerned, from where I sit, I don't think there's any issues at all with regards to bringing Kenyans together, particularly if we look at the BBI properly and the contents inside, because it has created positions. And these positions, I do believe, if we go for an election, not one person will run with all the powers. We need a situation where, after the elections, whoever has been defeated and has come second, then he can occupy the office of the leader of the opposition. That is not provided for, and this is what we are trying to introduce. And secondly, I do not think that really, for those ones who are saying that BBI is not popular in Mount Kenya, are right, because we have seen it also. Leaders from Mount Kenya have come forward. We saw Kimunya the other day, and we know there are quite a number of members of parliament also who support the BBI, and they come from Central. And therefore, this rhetoric that particularly saying that BBI won't go through or many other issues, I think it's personal. I don't think we need to look at it from that angle.
Mount Kenya is also not Kenya, so the idea that the BBI is not
Just
popular in a specific place, it's not really a very nice argument, if you ask me. It's not a neat argument.
Okay.
Because the country can pass it, whether Mount Kenya reject it or not.
not.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And all over the world, we have noted that the Constitution is not perfect. It's a document that is written by people.
yeah, but
by men.
tell us where in our 2020 Constitution,
exactly?
which part is not perfect. You see, this is the problem we have.
Where we have introduced certain positions, these positions were not there. And that's what I'm saying, that immediately after the elections, when we go for an election and the election is over, why do you think there's a fight? Is it because there are people who differ on tribes? No. It's because people differ. I would agree with the professor when he says that maybe in the BBI, it should have been included that punitive measures, like serious punitive measures should be done when there's an electoral offense. That one I would agree. But saying that the BBI process has no support, I don't think that's
All
right, let's just bring in Gladys Boschole briefly, just to add her voice on this as well. What do you have to say?
I think if you look back and see what happened is because Raila Odinga did not accept defeat after the elections, he then had protests and caused mayhem in the city center and made things so difficult that the country was not able to operate. By having the handshake and saying that winner takes it all is not a good formula, because in elections, it's a winner takes it all. That is what elections is all about. It's competitive. That's what politics is. It's how we conduct ourselves after winning the elections that makes the difference. So we have entrenched and almost accepted and legislated that when someone loses elections and they cause so much trouble, then there must be a seat that must be given to them to calm them down so as not to cause mayhem. I think we should deal with it the way America has dealt with it. If you lose an election and you think it was not free and fair, you have a chance to go to the courts. And if the courts pronounce that you have won or nullify the elections, then we move to the next, to that process. And that's what happened in 2017. We went for a second election, and the Jubilee government did win. And so thereafter, anything else that was being, the protests that were being run by Raila Odinga was actually equivalent to an insurrection. And you can see what has happened in the US. People are being arrested, they are being charged with high crimes. Donald Trump is being impeached, and that is the way we should deal with it in Kenya. Once you've gone to the court, you must obey the decision of the court. You can't say that you will cause mayhem in the country until you have your way, because then no one will ever accept losing elections, or they will cause mayhem until they are given a prime minister position or a position is created for them. That is not the way to deal with democracy. So there is no bridges being built there. We are entrenching failure to follow the law.
All right, Senator.
I don't think that anybody pronounced that they are going to cause mayhem until they are given positions. This is a creation of my sister, whom I have tremendous respect for. But there was chaos. And why was there chaos? I think it's because everybody knows in this country that it was unfortunate that the election results has to go that way. But for all said and done, that is what under the bridge now. We are talking about an issue which is very important here. We want, after the elections, then we have peace in this country. We don't want a situation where one person will run with everything that they have until when you get into parliament, there is absolutely no oppositions at all. We are saying there should be an opposition side. There should be an official opposition leader.
Could they explain what's running
and other positions. Can you give me a chance I finish?
Kindly continue, yeah.
Yes, and other positions which are being created are there for a purpose, that each and every area is adequately covered in such a way that I don't think Kenyans will have an uprising or there'll be any problems at all. So I don't see the reason why people should cause mayhem after this election that we'll go into.
So it seems winner takes it all narrative, number one, and the issue of positions is quite dominant in this discussion. Professor, over to you briefly, because we have to take a look at the papers.
Yeah, I want to challenge this idea of winner take it all. I think it's not even a clever argument, because Article 232 Q and that, because it's a cause for you to give the face of Kenya in all the appointment that you make to have a gender balance in the diversity, in principles of public service. So Article 10(2) on inclusivity also Q and that. So this idea of winner take it all, I don't know where it is. Now, I don't think there was demonstrations because we didn't have positions of prime minister. There was demonstrations because somebody says the election was not free and fair. So that is what we should have addressed to satisfy, because there will be losers even when we introduce these positions. People will have a lineup, and that lineup, one lineup will win, the other one will lose, because that is the nature of democracy. So what we need to be talking about is how do we trust our institutions, how do we trust the processes that give us leaders, and whoever loses, please go home. We don't have to reward you. We don't have to give you a position so that you don't harass us. We don't have to create a position for anybody so we can have peace, that which we deserve, and that which is given to us by God. I don't know this idea about winner take home, because I mean the Kibaki government, if you remember that government,
all right,
it ruled under the old constitution. I don't know how many people today, if we take a survey, who can Kibaki, I think it's a national hero. So this year is, I don't know which game we are playing. I think there is a very high degree of dishonesty in this business of the whole thing about amending the constitution and so on. We need to be clear if we are going to have a stable state. We need to be honest. We need to propose things because they actually add value to how we govern ourselves. Because once we talk, you see, we are talking about positions. I don't understand how a position is supposed to give us peace.
All right.
I don't get that.
So we'll have to postpone this conversation till later on when we're taking a look at the week that has been. Just want to take a look at what is in the papers, and we'll start with